Hi, everyone. It's Bob Perkins with AAISP's Inside Sales Studio. I'm here with a special guest, Ollie Sharpe. Ollie, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Bob. How are you?
Great. And you're in UK, right? You're in London right now. In
Yeah.
fact, Ollie is the VP for EMEA for SalesLoft. SalesLoft is a great partner, a sponsor. They do a lot to help the inside sales community. Ollie's role is really to build out the SalesLoft business in Europe. In fact, SalesLoft was the title sponsor at an AISP conference in London just a couple of weeks ago. You were there. Could you give us just your thoughts on the conference a little bit? What was your impression?
Yeah, it was great. It was what was refreshing was the how forward-thinking the people were there, and how on top of understanding how a sales tech stack should look and can look, and there was such interesting conversations that were very advanced as I see it, which was great to see. There's some great people in that community that were very interesting to speak with.
That's great. We're gonna talk to Ollie a little bit now about inside sales in Europe, right? And maybe compare it a little bit with the U.S. Let's start with this. We know in the U.S. that 80% of companies from our research are adding incremental, additional inside sales headcount, whether it's an SDR, account executive, account manager. Are you seeing this similar trend in and around Europe?
I think there's a similar trend. I think that companies are, and there's two ways of looking at it. Are they cutting costs by giving some of the tasks to more internally based salespeople to get it to a later stage, so the face-to-face team can add more value at a later stage? But I do think that a lot of companies are now seeing the value in having a strong SDR team. So yes, I think it is growing. I think it's in pockets in certain industries and in certain locations, but definitely seeing a great growth across EMEA.
You know, we talked earlier last week about how decision makers, prospects, current clients, how they're very willing to meet virtually, whether it's video like this, whether it's over the phone, whether it's email, texting even, and that has really been quite advanced in the United States. Now, from a time that I had a team over in Europe years ago, I knew then that selling and relationships was very much a face-to-face type of meeting to develop that trust. What are you seeing in Europe in terms of the people, the clients, decision makers, prospects, their willingness now to interact virtually?
So I think that what it comes down to is both from the seller's side and the buyer side, it's about how you can build trust. And through a whole of history, I think the best way to build trust is face-to-face, actually in person. But I think technology has changed that. And let's face it, we are a completely different location to the US, where you can go to a meeting and get there in 20 minutes and come back to the office rather than jump on a plane. So people are a lot more open now to be doing things over video conference. And I think now we're seeing the boom in video messaging and those kind of modern technology that is also making a difference. But if you look at all of the things that are growing, I think they're the things that build trust and the quality in the communication. It's not the things that are just let's blast out lots of messages. It's the things that lots of people are talking about how we build trust, and that's what the buyer wants, to trust somebody they're buying from.
And so it really makes this thing we call personalization, right? Really being personalized to whoever you reach out to, engage with. That's going to help build that trust. Would you agree?
100% over here. I think that it's even more so over here, and I think that this is the difference I've seen between the US and here. That we speak to companies that are covering both, that have people in the US and people over here, and the expectations of their number of outreaches to them, whether they're emails or whatever, it's a lot less over here than it is over in.
I think we need to take a lesson from that, Ollie. We've gotten so so concerned with, we got to make 100 dials a day, we got to send out so many emails, that I think we take a lesson from you, that we need to get back to quality over quantity. And I think that's what you're talking about. So that's a really good point. And let's talk a little bit about any trends you're seeing, whether it's technology, personalization trends, anything like that in Europe that you could talk about.
Well, I think the personalization is a big difference that people are realizing, especially with GDPR. I mean, GDPR's their amount of contacts that they have access to are even smaller than before, and things are getting harder. So personalization is more of a priority than it ever has been before. And also being able to understand what works and what doesn't work. I don't think the science has been here before in EMEA, where we can all look at what the results are, but how we get there is a different thing. So being able to analyze the data is a big thing that bringing the science of sales into sales development and the whole sales process is huge.
Well, you're probably there at a perfect time. I would think SalesLoft in particular, that because your tool allows leaders and organizations to analyze, to call record, to figure out what's converting. So hopefully you're going to be viewed as a thought leader in that area as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is very much just the data side and the quality side are huge over here, and that's where people are starting to realize what builds the trust.
Great. Let's talk about some of the challenges, right? I can tell you that across every aspect of inside sales, we have a challenge of trying to fill open seats. And then once we get somebody, oftentimes they're less experienced because the candidate pool is low, and therefore we end up with a training and development issue. What are some of the things you're seeing in Europe that are keeping sales leaders or sales reps up at night?
I think on the sales leadership side, I think there's a number of things that are different to what they used to be that's keeping them awake, whether it's the mental health of their team, and stuff that are more the softer sides of leadership. I think there's a lot of demand now for more of a mindful leader. And that's where leaders are starting to realize this. What keeps salespeople and sales leaders awake is GDPR, how to work with GDPR. I mean, our tool is fully compliant with GDPR, but it is something that we get asked about a lot. And that's something that hampers, because some companies are getting rid of 50% of their database of companies to call.
So GDPR is definitely something you need to figure out, you need to address. Talk a little bit more about this mental health, because it's becoming more prominent even in the US, that, look, this is a tough job, right? There's a lot of demands on inside sales. Quantity of activity is a demand. The fact that you're kind of stuck to your cube or even your home office, and you're tied to this phone, you're tied to the CRM, and it's stressful. Are you seeing the same thing in Europe?
ISM have just recently released a report about stress in sales. And I mean, there's 15.4 million work days lost in Great Britain last year. Wow. And that's down to work-related stress, depression, and anxiety. So it's a big thing over here, and I see it as the leadership's job to help with this, because it's something that we can impact, not putting too much pressure on our people, making sure that we are supporting them wherever we can. And when asked about what their company could introduce or do more of to prevent stress in the workplace, 23% of people said improvements to leadership and management. So we have the opportunity there to, as leaders, to actually impact how stressed our people get, and it's understanding their situation and not putting pressure on them. And I think that's a huge thing. If we should be able to impact that as leaders, and it's our role to do it.
Have you seen any, can you cite an example of maybe a leader you've seen that has done something specifically for their team, which helps out with that stress?
I mean, there is one that always comes to mind when you talk about things like this, Richard Branson. He set up parts of his organization to help with the mental health of his employees. And so he's obviously a great leader for many reasons, but that's something that he takes great precedence in. He sets the precedence of how we should be thinking of our employees, and I think it's a great thing. I think one thing for me is there's a book called by Sean Aker about Happiness Advantage, I think it is, and it's showing that people that are happy tend to be successful. It's not just because they're successful, they're happy. And if I can make sure my team are happy, then they'll be successful and the productivity will come.
I know a number of leaders I've talked to here in the U.S. I say, hey, I really think your inside sales reps could benefit by getting out to a roundtable meeting, a chapter meeting, a conference, right? And they say, oh, we can't take them off the phone because we'll lose productivity. That's short-sighted. Would you agree?
100%. I think that making sure that people have got the time. I mean, I'm always insistent on people having a good work-life balance.
Yeah.
I think they perform better when they're in the office if they are leaving and going and doing the things that they want. Schwartz and Law built their pyramid about what makes the people at the best of their performance. And things that it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What comes into it is their home life and having the goals in place. And that's what we should be thinking about as leaders.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Ollie, this has been a fantastic discussion. Now, I know you're newer to SalesLoft, and your job is to really help build the business there. Tell us a little bit about SalesLoft. What's new with you? I know SalesLoft has grown tremendously over the years, but anything you'd like to share with the viewers?
I mean, what's new is we have a presence over here, which is a new thing, obviously, and I'm new to them. Our product is developing day by day. I think that really, for me, what is the key areas of development is how much we can impact our clients. What's refreshing to me is one reason why I joined SalesLoft was because of the culture and the mission and how we think about the business. And Carl recently mentioned that what his ideal is building a business that their employees are proud of working for and our clients are proud to be clients of. So that's something where it's more about the purpose and the passion of a business that helps us develop. And our goal is to help our clients provide a great buyer's journey for their clients. And that's important. It's a big purpose to have, and that's what makes me interested in them. It's not just about our revenue, it's about how we can impact other people and help them.
And I'll tell you personally, knowing Kyle Porter for a number of years, it's what we love about SalesLoft, right? Working with you, it's more than just growing the revenue, but it's about the values, it's about giving back, it's about sharing expertise like you're doing here with our viewers. So, Ollie, thanks so much. We look forward to seeing you again next year, probably in Dublin in early December, and maybe back in London again. So thanks so much for joining us, and everyone have a great rest of the week.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.